Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video I'm going to go through all the Blu-rays and DVDs that I picked up in the month of December. Hope you all had a great Christmas and a great holiday season. I'm actually just filming this before Christmas, so anything that I get over that time, anything I get from my parents, I'll show in the next update video. Because I've got some cool stuff coming, but yeah, if you're watching this, Christmas has been and gone, so really hope you had a good one. So anyway, got some cool stuff in this month to show you. Let's get straight into it. First up, from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up Arnold, and this one was a bit of a surprise actually. I enjoyed this one a lot more than what I thought I would. It's from the early 70s, and it's about this kind of affluent aristocratic family, and they all gather at this big mansion because kind of the head of the family, this Arnold dude, has died, and they're all kind of going there to sort of pay the respects and to mourn in theory, but they're kind of all there just for the money, and they're all really greedy. But this Arnold guy, weirdly they keep him in like an open casket, but he's messing with them from beyond the grave, and there's a few people get killed off and things like that. And it's just it's an interesting one, and it's kind of, you don't really take it that seriously, but it has got some really good kind of gothic mansion shots and a really good kind of eerie, foggy exterior location kind of going on. So yeah, I enjoyed Arnold more than what I thought I would. Roddy McDowell's in it. He puts in a good performance as one of the greedy family members. So yeah, a bit of a hidden gem here from Vinegar Syndrome. I did like this one. Next up, from Unearthed Films, I picked up the Blu-ray release of August Underground. Unearthed Films releasing all three of these movies on Blu-ray. Gotta say, I'm not a fan of them. I don't get a lot from these movies. I know they do have their fan base, which is cool, but for me, they're pretty much irredeemable trash and really not fun to watch. These are all filmed really low quality on a camcorder, and it's basically these two degenerate guys going around torturing, humiliating, and ultimately murdering victims that they find. And yeah, there's just not a lot of enjoyment from these films. I'm going to get them because they're quite underground and they have somewhat of a cult following, but not a lot to recommend in this one. As I say, very unlikable characters, and just the whole way it's shot, the camera's going everywhere, it's very low quality, it's not even a fun thing to watch, so difficult to recommend this to anyone. But yeah, nice Blu-ray release. It's kind of cool to see him get that kind of treatment and at least have them, but yeah, nothing here that I can recommend anyway. Alright, next up I picked up The Black Castle. Now, a while ago I did my series looking at the different decades of horror. I did the 1950s, and I actually couldn't find a film from 1952. But I had quite a few suggestions from people, so thank you to everyone that did get in touch and say, here's a movie from that year. And one of them was The Black Castle. So I picked it up, and I'm really looking forward to checking it out, and it's great to get some representation from 1952. So hopefully this will be a good one. It sounds pretty cool, all taking place in like a spooky castle. So yeah, I'll give this one a watch soon, and hopefully I'll enjoy it. Next up, from Redemption, I picked up Black Magic Rites, which I watched right at the beginning of the month, and I'm struggling to remember it already. It was this woman, I think it's centered around this witchcraft thing. She goes to this party at this big mansion, but she keeps having these visions of being killed at the stake because she's a witch. It's a bit of a weird one. It was okay, but it was a bit too out there for me. I kind of like the Euro horror sorts of sensibilities of it, but yeah, this one was I struggled with elements of this one. So if you like your weird early 70s kind of Euro horrors, there's some enjoyment here, but yeah, not one that I went for all that much, unfortunately. It was okay. Next up, from Warner Brothers, I picked up Body Snatchers, the only one of the Invasion of the Body Snatchers adaptations that I'd not seen. And I have to admit, I watched it, put it on, and then I had to do something, so I could only give it my limited attention at the time. It seemed pretty good. I like kind of the gooey body changing effects, but it's definitely one I need to go back and give it a bit more of my full attention. But from what I saw, it's pretty good. So yeah, let me know if you're a fan of this one, and if you've seen it. Next up, I picked up Bones and All, which is an interesting film. More of kind of an indie film than a horror movie, but it's about this young woman that's afflicted with this kind of curse, if you will. Not quite vampirism, but she needs to feed on blood to survive and for sustenance and that kind of thing. And she gets sent away by her father, and she hits the road looking for her estranged mother. She has to travel across the country. And she ends up meeting this other young man that has the same thing going on. He has to feed on blood to survive. And they sort of get together and make this journey across the country to try and find her mother. And it's an interesting one. I wasn't quite sure what they were getting at, because it's certainly got the horror elements, but it's very much more like an indie road movie with kind of a coming of age feel to it and some sort of existential suggestions and things like that. So I'd recommend it more as that kind of film rather than horror, but it's certainly got some interesting themes about it. It's quite a long film, and I never quite sure where they were going with it. They never kind of hit on anything, and I'm not sure. It was a bit kind of loose in that kind of way. So yeah, a bit of a trite way to describe this one, but yeah, I just wasn't too sure about it in terms of what it wants to do. But certainly an interesting film, maybe one that you need to just check out and see what you think of, because I think this will divide people, but certainly an interesting watch. Next up from Kino, I picked up Burkenhair. This is an early 70s adaptation of the infamous Grave Robbers. This one's a bit more of a jovial take on it, and it's even got a couple of musical numbers in it, but I thought it was okay. It wouldn't be my go-to Burkenhair adaptation, but I enjoyed like the Victorian setting and some of the graveyard shots and things like that. So yeah, not a bad one. I enjoyed it for what it was. So yeah, it was okay. Next up, I picked up The Civil Dead, which is another very kind of indie movie. It's about these two friends, just kind of two like unassuming guys, and one of them just comes to the guy and says like, "I'm dead. I've died. No one can see me but you, and yeah, I no longer exist." And so yeah, it's kind of like them exploring that. At first, the guy doesn't believe it and he doesn't want anything to do with it. But the dead friend starts to show up at his house, which makes for a couple of quite creepy scenes, actually. They do that pretty well. And then you just kind of go around, as I say, just exploring this situation that they're in. Again, it's a very kind of indie one. It's not full-on horror, but it's got a few creepy elements. And I did like this kind of suggestion that it had of, you know, what if somebody was dead. So, yeah, okay for what it was, but I wouldn't recommend this to any kind of hardcore horror fans, if that makes sense. Next up, I picked up The Crimson River. Haven't had time to watch this one yet, but it sounds pretty interesting. I think this is like a bit of a psychological thriller thing with Jean Reno on the hunt for a serial killer or something like that. It's got some really good reviews, so I'm hoping this will be a good one. If you've seen The Crimson River, let me know what you think. Let me know what I can expect from it. Next up from Synapse, I picked up Crocodile. So I've been wanting to see this movie for many years. This is exactly like the kind of film I go for. Killer crocodile, killer animal monster movie is one of my favourite things. So it was really great to see Synapse put this out on a nice Blu-ray. Unfortunately, the movie is terrible. It's really bad. It's got a couple of decent moments with the killer crocodile snapping away at people, but other than that, it's really hard to get through. It's a film, I think it's from like Thailand or the Philippines or something like that, and I don't know if there's a bit of a cultural difference going on, but the dialogue and the acting is just so bizarre and so weird to watch, and yeah, there was a bit too much of that and not enough killer crocodile action for me. So I managed to see it and find a ticket off the wish list, which is cool. But yeah, unfortunately, it's not one of these killer animal movies that I'll be returning to all that much, unfortunately. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up The Curse of the Screaming Dead. Now, this is a movie that was originally released by Troma, and this is the film that Lloyd Kaufman described as being the worst movie in the Troma library. So my expectations for this one were at rock bottom. Now, not a great film, but I've got to say, I did get some enjoyment out of it. There were some moments of it that I thought were pretty cool. It is a bit of a slow burn. You've got a few scenes of people walking around doing nothing, but the zombie scenes I did enjoy, and I did like the idea of these like Confederate style zombies, which is what these are. I'm surprised that's not been done more often. So yeah, certainly I've definitely seen worse from Troma than this one. So for whatever reason, I did dig this one quite a bit. I thought it was okay. Definitely not the worst film I think Troma's ever put out. So yeah, I like the release from Vinegar Syndrome as well. So I'm happy to get it if nobody else likes the film. So yeah, if you like sort of tacky, low budget zombie films, then maybe there is some enjoyment here for you. And like I say, that Confederate zombie idea is quite interesting. Next up from Shudder, I picked up Deadstream. This was a fun one. This was about this YouTuber. He's a bit of a disgraced YouTuber and he's trying to get his fan base back. And he does a video where he says, I will stay in a haunted house for real. And I won't leave. I'll check out all the spooky stuff that goes on. Just support me and that kind of thing. So yeah, he does it. He goes to this house and of course it really is haunted and there's spooky things going on. And that's kind of the crux of this one. So, as I say, it's a fun one. It never reaches the levels of really scary horror. But it's more kind of like, it just has like a fun, fair feel to it of this up and down scary moments and a bit of comic relief and that kind of thing. So yeah, Deadstream, I had a lot of fun with this one. It's got a good energy to it. And yeah, it's just an entertaining one to watch. So I can recommend this one from Shudder. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up Dear Dead Dahlia. Trying to remember what this one was like. It's a bunch of people that, again, they go to a big mansion for a dinner or a party or something and people are getting killed off. But the main thing with this one is it was so dialogue heavy. Way too much talking in this one. There's a couple of cool deaths towards the end of it, but yeah, man, they really should have had a few more things happen throughout because it's very plodding. So yeah, not one that I was crazy for, unfortunately. Good to finally get it because it's been out from Vinegar Syndrome for a while now, but yeah, way too much talking in this one for me. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up Evil Judgment. Nice to see this one get the Blu-ray treatment. This is a Canadian slasher film. This woman witnesses a friend get killed at someone's house and then she's trying to find out more about it and the killer's going around killing people with a razor blade and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a fun little slasher and it's got some strong elements of giallo as well, which I thought worked really well with this one. It's a good concoction of kind of 80s slasher and giallo style. So yeah, if you like those kind of things, you might want to check out Evil Judgment. This one was a pretty good watch. Again from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up Flesh and Fantasy. Not watched this one yet. This one's a bit different from Vinegar Syndrome. This is a anthology film from the 1940s. So yeah, don't know anything about this one. This is the first I've heard of it up to the point when Vinegar Syndrome put it out there. So I'll check it out and see what it's like very soon. So yeah, hopefully this will be a pretty good kind of old-fashioned anthology. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, you can tell I got a Vinegar Syndrome parcel in December. We have Ghost Nursing. Again, this is a complete blind buy for me. Never heard of this one. This is one of these kind of crazy Asian horror films from the 80s. From what I understand, kind of a bit of supernatural stuff going on, a bit of gooey craziness as well. So it looks a lot of fun. It looks pretty out there. So I'm hoping this one will be a pretty entertaining one. I'll check it out soon and see what I think. Okay, got some Godzilla in this month with Godzilla versus Megalon. Really happy to pick this one up. I really enjoyed watching this one. And for a long time I've wanted to get the Godzilla film that had Jet Jaguar in it. And I could never remember which one it was. But thank you to Rob from what is now the Atomic Snack Bar. Check out his new rebranded channel. It's awesome. But yeah, thanks to Rob at the Atomic Snack Bar. He covered this movie not too long ago. And it was the one with Jet Jaguar. So I was like, right, I definitely need to get on that. So yeah, got this one in and had a lot of fun watching it. Jet Jaguar, I've always found him really cool. He's like something from Power Rangers. And then, of course, you've got Godzilla doing his thing. And Megalon was a cool-looking monster as well. So yeah, really enjoyable. Godzilla film. So yeah, glad to add this one to the collection. Now I'm trying to go through and own all of the Hellraiser films. So as part of this month I picked up Hellraiser DEA. It was okay. It's another one of these movies that was obviously not conceived as a Hellraiser film, and it's been cobbled together from something else. This one is this journalist in Eastern Europe somewhere she's investigating like this weird kind of death cult that they're doing like a bit of a flatliners thing, but they are also, one of them's linked to Pinhead, which would have been an interesting storyline, but it's only properly explored right at the end of the film, and I don't understand why they did that. So as its own film, it's got some interesting things going on. As a Hellraiser film, it's like meh, but good to own this one. I've almost got them all now, which is pretty cool. So yeah, for Hellraiser completists only, I would say. And then we truly sink to the bottom of the Hellraiser barrel with Hellraiser Revelations. This was the first one they ever did without Doug Bradley as Pinhead, and boy is he missed in this movie. The movie itself is an absolute mess. I know it was rushed in production, and it feels more like a weird infomercial than anything else. The acting in this is very off. There's something a bit bizarre going on, and yeah, it's just bad. And then Pinhead, he was bad. The guy who plays him, nothing against him, but man, he was not the man for the job. His line delivery was dreadful, and I just kept thinking throughout the film, like, is that the best person they could have got for Pinhead? I may explore this one a bit more in a separate video, so I won't say too much now, but wow, yeah, this was bad. This made the other Hellraiser films look pretty good, which is saying something. Next up, I picked up House at the End of the Street, which is a very grindhousey title. I was sort of expecting some sort of 70s exploitation style filmmaking, but it's not really that kind of movie. It's Jennifer Lawrence and her mum, Elizabeth Shue. They move into this big house, and there's a house next door which has got a bit of a dark history, like some murders went on, and the only person left living there is the son, who's a bit like reclusive. But Jennifer Lawrence sparks up a bit of a friendship with him, but he's clearly got some skeletons in the closet and a bit of a dark sort of secret going on. I won't say too much about it, but it was okay for what it was. It's an average horror film. I was entertained by it. So yeah, middle of the road movie if you ask me. Not terrible, but yeah, I just thought it was okay. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up Infernal Rapist, which is a heck of a title. And this one is pretty bonkers, to be honest. I think this might be a Mexican film. And there's a guy, he's on death row, he's been electrocuted in the chair for murdering people or something. And this witch comes out of nowhere and says, I'll bring you back to life if you do my bidding, which is effectively to just go around killing, raping and pillaging everyone. So he's like, yeah, of course. Pretty much just goes around doing that. It's such a strange film, very kind of tacky and not put together in the best way. I've got to say, it was entertaining for what it was. I thought this one might have been like unwatchably bad. And it's certainly bad, but there's enough going on to keep you watching, and there's a few sort of kills in it, and this guy is so off his rocker, is quite fun to watch. So yeah, not recommended as a good film at all. But there are some things in this that make it elevate it a bit more into the sort of so bad it's good, just absolutely bonkers territory. So yeah, it is a fun one in a strange way. Next up from Saturn's Core, we have Night Chills, which is one that I'm really looking forward to watching, actually. It's shot on video, so it's going to be minimal budget, but it's a horror film that's set around sort of like Dungeons and Dragons role-playing board games. So yeah, I don't really know how it pans out, but it has a very interesting premise, and I am kind of looking forward to seeing what they do with it. So yeah, shot on video horror fans, if you've seen this one, let me know if it's any good, let me know what I can expect. But yeah, looking forward to checking this one out soon. Next up from Shudder, I picked up a documentary called Leap of Faith, which is a conversation with William Friedkin about the making and legacy of The Exorcist. So, very interesting documentary. If you're a fan of the film, I think you definitely want to check this one out. And it's really interesting to hear William Friedkin talk about the movie and his experiences, what he thinks the legacy of the film is, what he thinks works and what didn't work so much. So yeah, I got a lot out of this one. It's always nice to watch something that teaches you something that you didn't already know about the movie. If I had any kind of con for the film, I would have liked maybe a bit more of an in-depth documentary, so maybe backed up with some shots of the making of the film and things like that, because it pretty much is just William Friedkin sitting in a chair and talking with a few stills. Not that he's not a really interesting guy. It's a very, very interesting documentary with him. But yeah, maybe it could have been a bit more in depth. I don't know. But overall, it's a really good documentary. And like I say, if you're a fan of The Exorcist, you're definitely going to want to hear this and check it out. So yeah, I really enjoyed watching this and listening to what William Friedkin had to say. Next up from Film Treasures, I picked up the stunning Blu-ray release of Mausoleum. Can't wait to check this out again. Love this movie. This is a really cool kind of 80s monster movie. Bobby Breezy, who is this woman that's got this family curse or something, and she changes into a monster and stuff like that. You got Marjorie Gortner in this as well, and Norman Burton. And yeah, it's just a really fun kind of practical effects, sort of creaturey movie. Haven't seen it for a long time, but when this came out, I thought I really want to get this, and I'm really looking forward to checking it out again. Really nice release from Film Treasures. Got Bobby Breezy on the back, looking all sinister. So yeah, really nice release. I can highly recommend picking this one up. And yeah, Mausoleum is an awesome film. So yeah, thank you Film Treasures for this one. Next up from 88 Films, I picked up Meridian. I've never seen this one before, but this is it's a full moon movie. It's pretty much full moon doing Beauty and the Beast. Pretty cool. This woman arrives at this castle and she's sort of like seduced by this prince guy, but he is sort of a werewolf beast kind of person behind the scenes, and it just explores that. Very much kind of like a fairy tale romance kind of horror, really. I was kind of watching it thinking it's probably one that kind of like teenage girls would probably like. Not that I know anything about what teenage girls would like nowadays. But yeah, it's got that kind of theme to it. But I enjoyed it for what it was. I like the fairy tale aspect. I really like the beast, werewolf looking creature. That was cool. So yeah, definitely an interesting one from Full Moon. And pretty nice release from 88 Films as well. Next up from Vestron, I picked up My Best Friend is a Vampire. This is a fun 80s one, an 80s comedy kind of thing. This guy, I think he's like a delivery boy, and he delivers something to this woman, and she's a vampire. She ends up biting him, and he too turns into a vampire, and he's got a vampire hunter on his trail, played by David Warner, which is awesome. So yeah, if you want just a fun kind of average 80s horror comedy, this one's pretty good. I did enjoy watching this one. Next up, I picked up Nope, and gotta say, it's a nope from me. Really did not enjoy this one. Didn't get it. Didn't get the premise. Didn't get where they were going with it, what they were trying to say. It just completely missed the mark. And yeah, Jordan Peele, when I first watched Get Out, I thought this was really a director to watch, but didn't particularly like Us, and certainly didn't like this one. So yeah, not one that I would recommend. Very long film, found it quite boring on the whole, and just, yeah, didn't get it. Wasn't my kind of movie, unfortunately. Okay, next up I picked up volume 1 and 2 of The Phantom Creeps, which is like a TV serial from the 1930s and 40s, I believe, with Bela Lugosi as this crazy scientist creating these monsters and robots to try and take over the world. So, sounded pretty interesting. Not had a chance to watch it yet, but I'm going to go through this and watch a few episodes and yeah, just check out some like old-fashioned kind of TV serial with Bela Lugosi as the creepy scientist. So yeah, if you've seen The Phantom Creeps, if it's one you used to watch back in the day, let me know. But yeah, just looked like a bit of fun, and hopefully I'll get some enjoyment watching these episodes. Next up, from Unearthed Films, I picked up Purgatory Road, which is these two brothers. One's a priest, and they go around the country in this van. People can like confess their sins to them and things like that. But the priest brother is like completely insane, and he's going around murdering people. And if you confess your sins, particularly if you say you killed someone or stole something, he like kills them there in the confession booth. And so it's about them going around doing that kind of thing. And then they meet this woman who's probably even more psychotic than them. So things really take a dark turn. It's an okay movie. I got to admit, I wasn't in the mood to watch it when I put it on. So I think I kind of unfairly dismissed this one a little bit. I need to go back and watch it, but it's got an interesting idea behind it, and the brothers in it were pretty cool. The priest was pretty intense. So yeah, Purgatory Road, it's okay for what it is. It's got some quite sinister moments. I just you know, you're just not in the mood to watch something, but you just put something on to pass the time. This was one of them. So yeah, it was certainly okay for what it was. From Shudder, I picked up Skinamarink, which I absolutely hated. I did do a video on this where I just said it was completely unwatchable, and I just hated every moment of it. So check that out if you want. Nothing has changed. I cannot stand this movie at all. It's horrible. So yeah, nothing else to say about this one, unfortunately. Next up, I picked up Spirit Halloween the movie, which is these kids, and there's a Spirit Halloween store which is like haunted, and Christopher Lloyd is this evil guy or something that's trying to take over the town, and the kids sort of try and fight back. It was okay. I was a bit underwhelmed with it. I was hoping for like a kind of a Goosebumps type real like fun sort of 90s feel, but didn't really get that from this one. It was okay for what it was, but I was expecting a bit more kind of, I don't know, sort of 90s nostalgia enjoyment from this one, which it didn't really do. But yeah, it was alright. Next up, I picked up Spliced, which is one that you don't really hear about, but I actually thought this one was really good. This is like a slasher from the early 2000s, so I really like the early 2000s vibe of this one. And it's sort of a mix between A Nightmare on Elm Street and Wishmaster. And it's these kids, they all go and see this new popular horror film where the killer in it can grant wishes, but they take a dark turn. And the killer in the movie starts to come after the kids that watch the film, and they're all like angsty teenagers, and they're sort of like, oh, I wish this and I wish that, and he starts to make it happen, but then they die violent deaths as a result of it. So yeah, I'm not sure why this one never took off. I thought it was a really fun slasher film. So if you get a chance to watch Spliced, then check it out. It's yeah, this one was pretty good. Next up we have Stay Awake. This is one, again, I've not had a chance to watch this one yet, but it sounds pretty awesome. It's about like they play this video game where if you die in the game, you die in real life. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on in this one, and how this one pans out. So yeah, if you've seen Stay Alive, let me know what you think of this one. Next up, I picked up Strange Nature. So this is like a bit of an ecological kind of horror film. In this small town, they start to notice animals turned up, and they're sort of like deformed or mutated, and yeah, there's some weird stuff going on, like in the woods and that kind of thing. And then they start to notice a couple of like babies are born, and they've got the same kind of deformities as these animals had. So it's like, you know, what's sort of polluting and infecting the town. So some interesting themes in this one. I wish they'd have focused more on the ecological horror side and the creatures. There's a lot just about the town drama and people talking, which I could have done without. So yeah, a little bit, I wish they'd put the focus more on the other stuff, but it's not bad for what it is. I thought it was pretty good. Next up, I picked up UFO Encounter, which is a documentary. It's got two documentaries on it, actually. One is looking at the possibility of UFOs being out there, It's very, very scientific. A lot of that one went over my head, if I'm being honest, but it was okay for what it was. And the other one, which I enjoyed a lot more, was narrated by Orson Welles. And again, that looked at the possibility of life out there in space, and talked to a lot of people who claimed to have seen flying saucers and UFO experiences and things like that. So I did like that. It was a bit of a quirky little documentary. So yeah, this was a pretty interesting pickup. Next up, from Slasher Video, I picked up Victims, which was just a very, very kind of low budget slasher movie. These bunch of women go into the desert for reasons that I can't remember, and they're kind of stalked by this guy that's killing them off. Very average slasher film. It was okay if you like those kind of movies, but I got to say the picture quality on this is terrible. It looks like it's taken just from a VHS rip. So yeah, if you're one that's all about picture quality, you're not going to get much from this one. But yeah, if you just want to see an average slasher with that sort of throwback grainy look, you might enjoy this one. Okay, next up I picked up a really strange anthology called With Friends Like These. Heard of this film for a long time and just never got around to watching it, and it's really bad, and it's just strange. It's almost like it's made by people that have no idea about any aspect of filmmaking. There's 3 stories, where there's one where a guy picks up this old-fashioned car that talks to him and starts to manipulate him. This story in the middle of a guy who just finds this sort of toxic waste monster living in his refrigerator and just starts talking to it. And the last story where this woman starts dating this guy who knows everything about her already. That's probably the best one of the lot. But yeah, this is just, yeah, as I say, a weirdly bad film. Bad acting, weird interactions with people. Everyone's just kind of a little bit off. So, you know, if you want, again, so bad it's good, maybe check this one out. But there's not a lot in this one going on. It's but very tame as well. So yeah, good to finally check it out, because I've been curious about it. But yeah, yeah, bit of a miss, this one is. And then last pickup for this month is Wyver, which is just a little cheap kind of sci-fi monster movie. But I did quite enjoy it. Takes place in this rural town, and there's this sort of flying monster that's killing people off. All sort of like CGI, but if you just want an undemanding, lowbrow monster movie, this one certainly delivers the goods. So I enjoyed it for what it was. So that's everything that I got for the month of December, guys. As always, let me know what you think of any of those movies. Any that you like, any that you really don't like, let me know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.